You're watching TVO. Welcome to TVO Home Studies. Next, we present Successful Home Video, an 8-part series designed to teach you to use your home video equipment effectively to make professional-looking videos at home or in the workplace. Whether you're a hobbyist, a semi-pro, a renter, or prospective buyer, this series and manual are for you. The manual provides an in-depth look at all aspects of video making, from basic skills such as shooting, lighting, audio recording, and editing, to advanced skills such as video effects and computer animation. Included are useful ideas, assignments, and exercises to inspire you to practice your new skills. You can also order edited VHS video cassettes of the programs. At the end of the program, we'll tell you how to order the course materials.
Have you got one of these? You know how to use it? Want to learn how to use it better? Think it's just for home movies? There's enough consumer video equipment available right now for you to start your own television station. Welcome to Successful Home Video. This is an 8-part series, and we're going to go all the way from basic camera and editing techniques all the way to advanced camera and editing techniques. As well, we're going to show you some professional stuff too, like pre- and post-production. Post-production is where you edit your tape and you add music and narration. Home video has just exploded in the last few years. In some cases, the quality is getting so good, we look at the picture and we say, was that shot with a home camera? And in other cases, networks and TV stations are using home video formats for news and documentaries. If you're interested in making any kind of a video, a family video, a travel video, a drama, a documentary, a wedding video, a business or training video, even a music video, you'll probably enjoy this series. We assume you've already read all your equipment manuals 3 times over and would like to find out more about video making, video hardware, and the tricks of the trade. This first program, Camcorder Basics, covers how to use the built-in mic on the camcorder, the viewfinder and what all that stuff inside the viewfinder means, prevent camcorder shake using tripods and hand-holding techniques. We'll explain how to set your white balance from daylight to artificial light, and show you how to use the zoom effectively. The assignment in this program will be to transfer your snapshots to video, whether they be prints or slides. We'll show you how. We'll even look at some basic editing. The following programs will cover basic video making and directing with editing in mind. We'll go out on location and make a visual essay, and learn how to edit in a camcorder as we shoot. We'll introduce you to photographic techniques so that you can get the best out of your camcorder. We'll examine audio recording and preparing for the final sound mix, where you add music, sound effects, and narration. In advanced camcorder, you'll learn how to use filters, how to move using a variety of equipment. You'll be shown special lighting techniques and special visual effects. There's plenty to see and learn in video editing, from editing effects to editing techniques. You'll be able to apply all this to making any form of video, whether it's a documentary, an instructional video, or a mad pace video where you spend the day chasing a bride and groom. A family video will last forever, so it's worth doing well. We'll also get you prepared for your travel video. We think you'll find this series a great help in understanding the world of videography. But first, let's get back to basics. Now I want you to go and find out what every single button on the camcorder does. I don't care. Find them underneath, under here, under there, hiding under the viewfinder. Know what every button does. Why? Well, even if there's stuff on the camcorder you never intend to use, like maybe the titling or date superimposition, one day you're going to push the wrong button and one of those features will become engaged and you'll have to know how to undo it. And it's a good idea to have just
tried every feature once so that you're familiar with how it works. I'm going to just do something you should do too. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to just put the video from this camera into the big monitor. This is a great thing to do because that lets you have a great big picture while you get familiar with what everything does. That way you can experiment with, say, the color balancing system and the autofocus system. See how they perform. Now, among the highlights that you'll need to know are how to turn the autofocus off. Believe me, autofocus is a special effect. It rarely focuses on what you want to focus. For instance, you're shooting a shot of a building and there are people walking in front of it. Every time a person walks in front of the camcorder, the thing focuses on the person and the building goes out of focus. So learn to focus yourself.
Then there's the white balance, which controls the color.
You've probably seen this picture before, right? My face is the right color, but the reflections in the table and the whole scene out the window are all blue. That's because every different kind of a light source, whether it's tungsten or daylight, fluorescent, mercury vapor, or sodium, has a drastically different color to it. And electronic cameras have to be able to compensate for that one way or another. It's called white balance. Now, our camera's a little different than yours because we can store a few different white balance settings. So let's compensate for the daylight. Okay, seeing out the window's the right color and the reflection of the table's nice, but my face has gone kind of much more gold because of all that blue that we're compensating for. I guess we better put that back. Here. We'll just zoom in on this and push the white balance button. There. We told the camera that was white and it had the tungsten light falling on it, so it believed us. Your camera will have one of two main methods of auto white balance. In this case, this camera has a white translucent window, and it takes the color of the light that's falling on that window and adjusts the camera's picture accordingly. Other cameras use a through-the-lens automatic white balance system that seems to work perfectly. Whatever the system, though, you very likely have the ability to override that auto white balance. On this particular camera, if you push the white balance button and look in the viewfinder, you see a small fluorescent tube, a light bulb, and a sun appearing, indicating that it's balanced for that. It's a really good idea to connect your camera to a color monitor and experiment with all those white balance settings, because there's not necessarily a right white balance setting, and color is so important to the photographic statement that you make. You can be experimental and learn what it does under various circumstances. Matter of fact, we were having quite a ball just changing the picture by telling our camera that various different things were white. Here. Okay. They look like a pickle. Funny, they don't feel like a pickle.
Carina looks nice lit by daylight. Unless, of course, you made the mistake of setting your camera to tungsten. Believe it or not, these goats are not really blue, but actually white. They've been photographed incorrectly with the tungsten setting when it should have been the daylight setting. You're probably using a black and white viewfinder, making it hard to judge color. Sometimes it's good to use a portable color monitor, and it sure beats looking through the viewfinder for an extended period of time.
Okay, the title of this section is, when you're using your camcorder and you're recording, you look through here. Now, there's more than you might expect to know about the viewfinder on the camera. First and foremost, it's a tiny little TV set, a video monitor in there, and you're looking at it through a lens. There's an adjustment to set the focus for your eye, because after all, your eye can't focus that close, on that little TV monitor. Now, these focuses don't interact, the one on the camera and the one in the viewfinder. You can't, say, defocus the picture there and focus it up using the camcorder lens. There's a video monitor in between that whole optical system. So even if you're just shooting a blob out of focus with the camera, you can usually focus the viewfinder by looking at all the writing that's in there. And you'll find a position where the writing is the sharpest. Then you know you've got that thing set okay. Now, some people have trouble looking through the viewfinders at first because they don't look straight down the barrel. Now, some viewfinders are more forgiving than others, but in this case, if I had the camera at that, I can't even see the viewfinder at all at that angle. So look straight down the barrel. Then use it with this eye. That's the way the camera was designed. And to start with, close your other eye. Although it's a great skill to learn to open that other eye periodically if you're, say, waiting for someone to walk into your frame and you don't want to know where they are. It's a darn good skill, and it's pretty weird, actually. Now, you don't have to use your viewfinder like this, up at eye level straight. Most all of them at least tilt up so that you can get down to, say, a kid's level. It's also a much more stable way to hold the camera, I find. Some viewfinders actually tilt down for getting those high shots, and this one does something I'd never seen before. It comes off. In case you want to get those high shots. This is mighty bizarre, I'll tell you. Now, in the viewfinder screen on that little video monitor, there's all sorts of information. It's going to tell you if you're recording or not recording, and if the battery's low, and the time and date superimposition, and just about anything can show up in a viewfinder.
In the good old days, video viewfinders had a simple red light that showed you whether or not you're recording. Today, the light's been replaced with on-screen graphics that indicate recording, whether the autofocus is turned on, and sometimes the zone of active autofocus. As well, you get the status of the fader, the tape speed, and if the color balance has been set for daylight, fluorescent, or tungsten. The viewfinder will also indicate backlight status, digital effect status, shutter speed if not normal, and of course, the time and the date, which never seems to be set quite right. Some viewfinders even display sound recording levels. And mine has a hilariously phrased warning that the battery is dead. Best of all, if you can figure out how to turn off most of the graphics, you can even see the picture that you're recording.
Normally when we're out shooting, we use that free light in the sky, the sun. Normally we don't pay much attention to its position, but watch this. I'm going to go a full 360 degrees around. Notice how the mood and the quality of the picture changes depending on the relative position of the sun, the camera, and the subject. You'll notice if you're shooting on the water that the color of the water will change. The color of the sky may change. And it's amazing the range of things you can create just with your position. Normally we tend to get focused on what we're shooting and not really pay attention to the angle of the sun, but you can go a lot further if you just take a look around. All consumer camcorders offer some sort of a zoom lens. The rule of thumb for the zoom lens is don't use it. You might remember older television cameras that had the 3 or 4 lenses on the front, and the camera person had to select the correct one for the shot they wanted. The intention of the zoom lens originally was to merely automate this into a smooth, infinite series of lenses. And you'll probably do a lot better photography if you think of your zoom as a collection of lenses. Like all collections of lenses, the ones that offer the most magnification also have the most critical focus. So the way to use the zoom is to zoom all the way into the subject, focus, and then zoom out to the shot you want. As long as the distance stays constant between the subject and the camera, the zoom will then track its focus throughout its entire range. Now you can capitalize on the reverse of all of this if the subject, say, starts to walk towards you. If you subtly zoom out to keep the shot size the same, the lens focus will also become less critical at the same time, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, there are some ways to use a zoom lens properly for effect.
When you zoom to a more telephoto position, the focus becomes more critical. You can use this effect to help the foreground subject stand out. A zoom can help single out a subject or object and tell the viewer where you want them to look. But in the time you're zooming, you could have had several different, more interesting shots. Use the zoom sparingly.
I've always been impressed with how well these camcorder microphones work. They seem to work as well as microphones that cost us a couple $100 or more. Now, this isn't a fake demonstration. You're actually hearing my voice from this microphone. We've hooked the signal from the earphone out into our camcorder. It's a good idea to get to know your microphone. For instance, this one's pretty directional. It doesn't get anything from the sides or behind the camera. Other microphones may vary. As good as these microphones are, they're not miracle workers. The farther away you get from them, the more the background sounds will seem to intrude. It's okay in quiet locations like this, but when the traffic comes, I could be completely drowned out. You can't trust your ears when you're recording sound either, because your brain has a remarkable ability to filter out unwanted noises. So for that reason, it's a good idea to take one of the 5 or 6 sets of headphones you already have around the house and find one that works well with your camcorder. It's just another case in television of closer being better. Just a quick survey showed that there are about 1 million different kinds of tripods and about 1,000 different things to say about each one, which is 1 billion things to say about tripods. So rather than go through all that, we decided to just start at the top of one at random and work our way down. Up at the top, this one has a very nifty feature, a quick release plate. This is handier than you can imagine right now, but it's a good feature to look for. The plate bolts onto the camera, and then thereafter, the thing goes on and off the tripod head with just a snap. Moving down, you got your go up and downer and your go sidewayser, the pan and tilt mechanism. They're calling a lot of these smaller, cheaper heads fluid heads. In professional stuff, those are $3,000 heads that use a viscous fluid forced through a tiny hole to develop that nice friction that you feel for smooth panning and tilting. Well, these may not be actual fluid heads, but they operate like fluid heads, so it doesn't matter. They seem to be very smooth and nice. Make sure when you're shopping that you get one that's using the same quality mechanism for tilting as it is for panning, because some of them cheat and use kind of a rough, terrible friction mechanism on the pan while still having a smooth one on the tilt. So don't get caught by that. Now, what size legs do you need? Well, don't just say, well, I have a 2-pound camera, so I need a tripod that'll carry 5 pounds. There's more to it than that. Obviously, a 50-pound camera is going to crush that 5-pound tripod. But the real thing about the stability of the tripod is you should buy whatever you can afford financially and whatever you can afford in weight to carry around. Get the biggest, because even though your tripod may be capable of physically holding the weight of your camera, the lighter ones are quite wobbly, especially if you're out in the wind using a very tight lens. Moving down to the bottom, this one's equipped with an optional dolly. The dollies are just terrific. You might anticipate working around banquet halls or great big level places where it's a snap to roll your camera from place to place. This one has an additional feature of being able to raise its wheels and lower itself right to the floor for stability when you don't want to move. And the thing that can really make a dolly magic is if you figure out how to add some sort of a platform to carry all the rest of your stuff.
The next best thing to a tripod is a monopod. It collapses to make it more portable. However, your macro and telephoto shots will probably be shaky, as it's not as sturdy as a tripod. Another good alternative is to find a sturdy surface to rest your camera on. This takes a bit of practice. If you want to get a shot looking up, you can wedge a book or your hands under the camera. Leaning against a post or a tree can also give you some extra stability. Remember, the wider the lens, the less shaky the shot. I tried this low angle to avoid the camera's shadow from the setting sun, but I couldn't quite get low enough, as you can see. This is a handheld shot. It's working okay because of my wide angle setting. If I wanted to zoom in, I would have needed a tripod.
Okay, this is your last assignment for this program. It's the Archival Legacy. Transfer all those old family photographs to videotape. Now, I can think of a dozen or maybe a million reasons why this is a good idea, but the highlights include finally getting all of the family photos in one spot and being able to reframe and recrop. For instance, this photograph's the wrong shape for the television frame, but I actually like this one a lot better if I zoomed in to just the face. The third reason to do all this is that finally you'll be able to have everybody in the family have a copy of the tape of all those photographs. It's a lot cheaper than having a copy of all those photographs. Now I've got a close-up attachment on the end of the camera that's letting me work at this distance. It's a nice way to work, but if you don't have a close-up attachment, you'll just have to invent a slightly different camera position that does allow you to get the size of photograph you want. I'm also using the world's best graphic stand. It's actually, it's a piano, that's what it is. But I just use it as a graphic stand because it has a perfect stage for holding the photograph, and the light that's always on the piano above that stage is also in a perfect position because of the incidence of reflection and refraction and, well, who understands all that geometry? The point is that with the light at this extreme angle above, the glare from the photograph is actually somewhere down here on the floor rather than coming straight into the camera lens. Just about perfect. If you don't have a piano, you'll have to invent a stack of books and a board or anything that allow you to prop those photographs up. You might have a tripod that allows you to tilt far enough that you're looking straight down at the floor, and that's not a bad way to work either. If curly photographs are a problem, try a simple small sheet of glass from the hardware store with the edges taped for safety. You'll be able to put that glass on there, and the weight of the glass will flatten the curly photograph. This is a kind of a novel way to transfer slides to video. It's a doodad that screws onto the end of the camcorder lens, and it has a white translucent window here that you just have to point any old light at. The slide's in there. Then there's some optics in the barrel that allow you to still use the zoom and focus of your camcorder to recrop the slides. It's pretty neat. Now, you don't have to run out and buy one of these to transfer slides. You can simply do it by pointing your slide projector at a white wall in your house and pointing the camcorder at it. Just a couple things to be aware of. One, a lot of popular slide projectors are brighter in the center of the image than they are at the edges. Some people just put up with this, but you might want to try a couple of slide projectors if you have the option and see which has the flattest field of light. The other tip is you won't be able to shoot the image exactly flat on, so there are going to be some focus problems. Therefore, you want the image as bright as possible. Therefore, make the projected image as small as you can comfortably get away with. And then nestle the camcorder as close to the slide projector as possible to minimize those focus variations. You'll find it works quite well.
More sophisticated transfer equipment is available depending on your budget. This equipment transfers either slides or negatives to video and can be coupled to a small effects board that can crop or add color borders and backgrounds to your pictures. You simply connect it to a VCR to record while watching the picture on a monitor.
Now, if you're just coming to home video from, say, still photography or, worse yet, that old 8mm stuff that used film, it's important to remember that videotape is almost free per minute. It costs you very little to make a recording. As well, it's reusable. So what you have to do now is just go shoot, experiment, zoom, focus, pan, have a ball, come back and look at it. If you don't like it, record over it. And as you do that, you'll get better and better.
You may want to condense all of your material down to your best stuff. Then you're going to need to edit. Sounds complicated.
There's a simple way to edit. That's connecting the camcorder to the VCR and recording selected pieces over to another tape. Now, don't even bother getting that pencil and paper to write this down, because there are hundreds of camcorders and hundreds of VCRs, and the specifics are different with each piece of equipment. And then you multiply this operation by 2 when you're connecting a different kind of a camcorder to a different kind of a VCR. So we're going to try to hit the highlights and the generalities. For the specifics, you may want to consult the instructions and the papers that came with your equipment. We want to connect video and audio out of this to video and audio in of the VCR. So let's have at it. Now, most camcorders offer right on the body a video and audio out socket, but be careful. These 2 little spigots are doing the work of 4 spigots on this particular camcorder and on many others. So I have to select whether I want them to be ins or outs. We want to take the video out of this machine, so switch it to out. Pretty well all manufacturers have standardized on coloring the video socket yellow. And often the cord that comes with it has a yellow end, so it goes in there, and that's audio out. Great. Now we take our video and our audio on the cable, and we take these 2 wires and we plug them into the, 3 sockets. See, a lot of VCRs are stereo. They have a left and a right audio input. A lot of camcorders only offer you a mono single audio spigot. So, okay, video goes in video. Now, the details will be different for different machines. Some machines are clever enough that if you only plug audio into the, say, left socket, it automatically senses the empty socket and supplies the same audio to both channels. This machine has a switch that has to be set to mono to achieve the same thing. In some cases, you may want to buy a Y cord. That's a small cord that goes from 1 wire branching out to 2 so that you can feed your left and right channels. Okay, plugged in. Line 1 on this machine are a set of sockets on the back, where they are often on most VCRs. Line 2 are the set of sockets on the front, where they always should have been since day 1. And tuner, of course, is that section with the channel numbers that you would select to record or view off air. So we're in line 2. Go to line 2. All right, we should be ready to go.
Next, find the scene you want and cue it up.
Okay. Playing on the camcorder. And that was the end of the stuff I didn't want. Okay. Now,
we're poised at the grand moment. The recording machine is set to record but pause, and the playing machine is set to play but pause, and I've already confirmed that my signals are passing in the correct direction. To make the smoothest possible transition, since camcorders usually have a noise bar when they're in pause mode, I actually want to tap pause just a split second before I tap pause on the record machine. And I also had to fool around to figure out how to start the record machine. Some would require you to push record and play at the same time when in pause, etc., etc. You figure it out in your machine. This particular machine will allow a tap of the pause button to continue rolling in the record mode. So, I'm ready. I'm going to hit the camcorder and then lightning fast. As soon as the picture stabilizes, I'm going to hit the one on the recorder. Now, I'm recording the new scene and there's a great big piece left out. As it turns out, these two particular units made by different manufacturers happen to love this setup, and we've done a lot of great recordings with almost no disturbance. Depending on your recorder and its age, it may well do a kind of a sloppy recording when you go from record pause to record motion. You may find that there's a few seconds of a rainbow pattern going up the screen or something. You're just going to have to discover what you can get away with. Now, I could, if I wanted, make a beautiful edited piece just sitting here with the pause buttons, but there are some difficulties. One is you have to be very lucky to have a machine that will tolerate that record pause thing as neatly as this one does. For another, it's quite tricky to position these machines just using the pause buttons, and especially in the case of camcorders that have such tiny buttons that are hard to press. Oh, go backwards, go forwards. You may want to move up to an edit controller. An edit controller really uses the same system where the player is playing back a tape and you're re-recording it onto another tape, but it allows much finer control of the position of both of the tapes and more convenient monitoring of what the points are. We'll be taking a more in-depth look at editing throughout the series. Well, that's all we have time for, and like good video people, we like to end the day by cleaning our lens, blowing off the fluff, and putting on the lens cap to keep it all nice. Bye.
If you'd like to expand or polish your video making skills, you can order the course manual for $39. 2 edited VHS video cassettes of the programs are also available for $59, or you can order the complete course package including the manual and videotapes for $89. Prices do not include the $4 shipping and handling charge or GST. To order, have your Visa or MasterCard ready and call Toronto 445-5333. Long distance, call toll-free 1-800-663-1800.